Welcome everyone. You might know I'm in Mexico right now. I'm working part-time with a client, hence why I'm out here. But I also have some free time as well. So luckily had the opportunity of hanging out with my friends yesterday and this morning, Matt Maruca.
Hey everybody.
aka the Light Diet. So I'd give you a brief summary of like how we know each other. So just my own health journey, stumbled across someone that Matt was sort of learning from as well at the same time, and essentially we knew someone, a lady called Dasha, and she connected both of us.
And our boy Tim Gray also.
And our mutual friend Tim Gray as well. And we met up for the first time last year, very briefly, at the Health Optimization Summit. And ever since there, we've been speaking on WhatsApp, checking in with each other, discussing our learnings, all about light, circadian rhythm, mitochondria health. So super stoked to be actually in the presence of this gentleman here, this young man.
Encantado, amigo.
And it's just an amazing opportunity to actually like be in person. Luckily we can do that here in Mexico. So I'm going to shut up and just basically have a quick 15-20 minute conversation with Matt, discussing all things about light, our environment, probably touching upon mitochondrial health, asking him obviously his health journey and like his purpose and his why, which is really important. As well, if you want to send through some questions, I will try and like read them out at the end and have like sort of a quick fire questions that we can get Matt to answer. So that'd be pretty cool. So we've actually just this morning just watched the sunrise, and obviously, as you all know, it's about downloading photons from the sun. So without further ado, let me just push this back because then Matt can get involved here as well.
Hey friends.
Put it down a little bit. Okay, so are good? Okay, cool.
We're good.
So who is Matt Maruca?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Mr. Ryan Carter. Everyone, so there are two people in the world, well there's actually a lot, but two particularly who want to bring the wisdom about how light affects our body at the deepest levels to the world in a big way so that everyone can be elevating our life, and that's Ryan and I. So I feel like Ryan's a brother of mine, and we actually just started, this is one of our first times actually hanging out a lot, but like he said, we've been in contact on WhatsApp, and Ryan's just, as you can see, reading all these books and all this amazing content stuff, a lot of which I've read, a couple years ago, and we're just synchronizing and expanding our knowledge together. So that's what we're doing together, and we're really excited about it. Over the next couple years, we're going to really be getting the world to see that light is so important, and no one else is really doing that except, there's some really cool people like Dr. Jack Kruse, Dr. Andrew Huberman out at Stanford, and a few others, Dr. Alexander Wunsch, but we really want to make this accessible and cool, and that's kind of where we come in. So who is Matt Maruca? Well, I'm a guy from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the United States of America, and I had this health journey where when I was about 13, 14 years old, I was just starting to get some really bad breakouts of all kinds of different, pimples and stuff on my skin. And that's typical as a teenager, but I was really just kind of not really happy with the way that was going, and I came across all these different diets that I could do to actually try to heal my cells. And this was the paleo diet was a big thing that I had first learned about. And in reading about the paleo diet, I heard about this concept called epigenetics that you're probably familiar with from following Ryan. But epigenetics is this really interesting science of how we can actually modify our physiology based on environmental changes, so that our genetics aren't the determining factor of our function as an organism. It's actually the environment that's in a sort of dance with the genes, and that's what makes us a living organism. So this opened me up to this concept that I could actually heal all these other health issues I had had since I was like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, which were gut issues, persistent chronic gas, bloating, all these constipation, things like that just weren't pleasant and shouldn't even be happening, especially to a young kid, or for a young kid if I spin it that direction, because it was an opportunity for me to learn something. But also I was having headaches, like in school I'd be debilitated, just like miserable, and I was having horrible allergies, like pollen allergies, just sneezing, itchy eyes, itchy throat. If you know what if you've had any of these experiences, you know what I'm talking about, or other persistent low-level chronic health issues like chronic pain. Thank God I didn't have some acute condition like cancer or autism or leukemia or whatever, autoimmune disease I could have. But these low-level health issues are actually sort of the precursors to a lot of those issues. So it's really you want to address those and not take them too lightly. But I didn't know about that. I was just 13 reading on the internet. So I started just going super deep. I learned about the autoimmune protocol of the paleo diet, which is a further level that we can use to actually adjust our physiology and try to calm down our immune system. I went super deep into this because I had improved my symptoms so dramatically with the paleo diet, but knew that I still had further room to go because I was still having several symptoms in different ways. So I did this autoimmune diet, and then I even went to the gut and psychology syndrome diet, which has kind of become really popular now with the carnivore world, like 8 years later, because of its focus on just eating bone broth and, softly cooked meats and like well-cooked vegetables, low in lectins and all that stuff. And I got obsessed with that. I went all in it, and interestingly enough, I actually ended up feeling worse than when I started as I went on these super restricted diets, keeping in mind I was 13, 14, going to 15 years old at this time, really struggling, trying to heal my health all with food. And there was a huge turning point that occurred when I learned about this guy, Dr. Jack Kruse, because he was the first person basically posting on the internet saying that I found that said, have you tried all these different diets? Have you tried paleo, and have you not seen all the results that you think you have the access to in your life? Well, this could be why. It's because your mitochondria are the cellular engines that process the fuel in your body. And in the same way that if you had a car with a broken engine and you tried to put in some premium gas to try to make it work better, and it wouldn't work because the engine's broken. In that same sense, in the same very similar way, if you're putting in premium fuel, high quality food into a body with broken cellular engines, it's just not gonna work because it's not fixing the root cause. It's not working at the engine. And Dr. Kruse was posting all about how basically our mitochondria, our cellular engines, they're not controlled, dictated, and operated by the fuel that's going in. They're operated by the computer, just like a computer that controls a car's engine. And the computer is basically our body's brain and our circadian rhythms, which are all controlled effectively by light, by connection to the earth, by electromagnetism, electromagnetic fields. And so he had this much deeper protocol of things that we could be doing to optimize this, including, drinking clean spring water, not fluoridated water that's toxic, eating more seafood for the DHA that optimizes our nerve and our eye function and the timing and things in our cells, getting sunlight at sunrise, sunset, sunbathing during the day, downloading like Ryan likes to call it. And this was stuff that Dr. Kruse is really bringing to the world, and I really admire him and appreciate him for all this information he's brought out. And so I became so fascinated, and I was really able to start healing a lot of my cells. And in the process, I also learned about these books that Ryan's actually reading, or going to be reading one of them soon, like The Body Electric, and a book called Light Shaping Life, Biophotons in Biology and Medicine, about how our body is really more energy-based than it is matter-based, and that we have this governing field that's electromagnetic that controls the way that our cells manifest in reality. And so I became super fascinated on this. I knew, my heart told me that this is the thing that I need to focus on, so I went all in, started learning as much as I could, and then I went on this several-year journey. I started an online business, making the best blue light blocking glasses in the world to protect our eyes from artificial light that disrupts it. Yeah, so we have the cases here, we have the glasses, we'll show you in a minute. But did that, traveled the world, and I ultimately, where I'm at right now, is I ended up learning about how, the things I was learning from several people, including Dr. Kruse, were largely focused on our outer light, so our environment and all this stuff. And I started coming across the work of many different spiritual thought leaders around the world, like Dr. Joe Dispenza, Sadhguru, Deepak Chopra, and all these sorts of people, ancient and modern, who are focused on cultivating our inner light. And so that became sort of what I call the light diet, is a combination of this focus on our inner light and our outer light. Because if you have healthy outer light exposure, but you're living with the hormones of stress, you're constantly in a state of panic or stress, the cells aren't going to be able to take maximal advantage of everything. And Ryan and I have been speaking about this a lot. You could have all the energy input to a system, but if it's just draining, then it's going to be a big waste of time in many senses. So that's sort of who I am, what I'm focused on. I really just want to bring this information out to the world. Is the why a question here?
Yeah, well, I think amazing story there, and journey as well. Like from the age of 12, and just diving into like the world of quantum physics, which is like no easy feat as well. Just reading, like, and that's the power of reading books. And it's not even like the latest books out there. Some of the books like are in like the 1950s, 60s, and that's like so dense. There's no color illustrations, there's no audiobooks, and you literally just got to do the work of reading this stuff. And that's the power of reading and opening your mind to observations and possible theories, hypotheses. And we have to remember, like, science is not fixed, and there's like some amazing data and research that like is not even in the public domain. And this is like the wonders of like Jack Kruse, of being an innovator and putting the pieces of the puzzle together to a certain degree. And it's not just about light, but that's where people sort of get confused in the health space. They focus purely just on the food, and they miss out on the light circadian rhythm aspect, but they also miss out on the emotional side of things, which like Matt just touched upon with like Joe Dispenza, and processing his emotions and trauma, and like his purpose, his why, and all these kind of things, which have a big influence on biochemistry essentially. So that's not your username on Instagram, so it's the light diet. So like let's like, what is the light diet essentially?
Yeah, so after all this time of learning all this stuff, there was a period, it was like from age 15 when I learned about this concept of how light affects our physiology, to when I was 16 and I went abroad. I lived in Eastern Europe on a foreign exchange program, which was awesome. I love Europe, a lot. I really want to live in Europe more and more. But I was abroad, and then I came home, and it was my senior year of high school, and I was trying to figure out how to make money and be financially free and be able to focus on this spark of inspiration, like we're talking about, this passion. And so, figured that out to a certain extent and worked really hard on it for a couple of years. And in a way, actually, I got a little bit stuck in the mud, like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, trying to move matter with matter rather than changing energy to move matter, building up this business. But all along that process, I was really open and still connected to this inspiration. Otherwise, I would have quit several times with my business if I wasn't attached to the greater vision. And so people would come up to me, or just people I would talk with. I remember I was in Bosnia. I was with a friend from the exchange program a couple years later, and I was with his older brothers, and we were out at their beautiful little country house having a barbecue and talking, and they were all asking me about me and what do I do and who am I and this whole thing, because they're interested, meeting an American who they rarely meet out there in Bosnia. And I told them this story and how I had these issues, and I overcame the vast majority of them just through these simple things. And then one of his friends, like brothers or cousins or something, was just like, so like, come on, like, what's the punchline? How do I do it? And I was like, dang, like, no one's put this in like a simple, easy to apply fashion. And so that's when the idea of the light diet was birthed. Like, it's the same. It's not exactly the same actually, but it's similar and derived from the information that people like Dr. Alexander Wunsch are teaching about sunlight. Dr. Douglas Wallace are teaching about mitochondria. Dr. Gerald Pollack is teaching about water. Dr. Laszlo Boros is teaching about deuterium. Dr. Dispenza is teaching about meditation. It's my ultimate understanding and synthesis from my experience of what these things are and how they come together so that we can utilize them. Dr. Jack Kruse, of course, putting together the quantum biology pieces. And so I just threw the term the light diet out as a way to synthesize and put these protocols together and then give it a name that reflects what it actually is doing for us, and something people can easily understand. It's not, contrary to what it might sound like, it's not a diet of just fruits and vegetables, like a super light, food diet, although it could be if you wanted it to be, if you wanted to be, vegetarian or a raw vegan or something like that. This is the best way to do that would be being somewhere where you're in a tropical place with the sunlight that can make that type of existence not so detrimental to the body, but actually even potentially a benefit. But anyway, it's a diet of our light exposure. It's a diet of the light we're exposed to, sunlight, artificial light, even spiritual energy light like prana that we can talk about as well. So it's a diet of living off that as much as possible so our body can run as clean as possible and everything can function at its highest optimal level. And so the light diet really is just that protocol, and there's really a simple number of steps. I've kind of gone through a couple different variations, but I'll give you what I'm calling the Light Diet 2.0 just here, which is 10 steps rather than the 8 that I've gone with before. And the 10 steps are: cultivate your inner light is step 1. It used to be the last step, but actually for me it's becoming the more important one. It doesn't really matter the positioning of these steps. The next is to, and that includes meditation and, you know, self-practice and any sort of energy discipline that you can use, yoga, reading, something that fascinates you and inspires you and connects you with your future and who you want to become and gets that into the present moment. The second would be watch the sunrise. The third would be something related to food, basically eat the majority of your food eat with the sun, basically eat your calories when the sun is the strongest. Spend a lot of time outdoors during the day sunbathing, drink clean unfluoridated spring water, take advantage of temperature therapy, both cold and hot, like ice baths and saunas. Avoid man-made electromagnetic field exposure is super, super critical. So that's 7 steps so far. 8 would be to watch the sun set at the end of the day to close the day off. And then 9 would be to wear blue light blocking glasses after the sun goes down and avoid blue light. And then 10 would basically be to go to sleep early. And I may have kind of messed one up, but you get the idea. It's a very simple approach. This is like the simplified version of even my original Light Diet protocol, but it's in a simple approach you can use. And this is the same stuff Ryan's talking about. It's the same concepts. It's just my way of framing it and sharing it with the world. Simple things everyone can do basically for free to easily impact your health in a tremendous way.
Did you have grounding on that?
That's the one I missed, grounding, actually. So grounding.
That could be connecting with the earth, like
connecting with the earth. That's actually should be like right after the sunrise, because it's implied that when we get in the sun, we want to be barefoot. We could also have a step of like don't wear sunglasses, contacts, and sunscreen, and that would maybe bring it up to 11. But you get the concept. This is the
So with those final ones, like the sunglasses, sun cream, that's pretty like where the more detail comes in. But on the whole, like we just want to keep it easy.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Simplify it. Like as humans, we love the detail, especially in like the food, functional medicine world. It's all about the details of like metabolic pathways, and understanding it. Is like important. But again, we have to understand the basic principle and fact of life that like it all occurs in a matrix of water essentially in the cell, and if that is not there and not functioning optimally based on the environment, then essentially there's no point in worrying about certain metabolic pathways to a certain degree, or possible micronutrient deficiencies to a certain degree, and stressing ourselves out and missing out on the bigger picture of the basic fundamentals, which is obviously like the light diet and the information which I share on here. As long as you're doing the majority of those things, like the 80-20 sort of rule, the principle, like doing those things right, your health would like dramatically improve, and then like you'll have some ability to like not be so rigid in your approach. And being rigid and so restrictive and so all in is not a never great mindset to be in the modern society. Absolutely. Because temptation around us it's really hard, and to be 100% disciplined in this modern environment is really like a real struggle. And there's only a few people out there. Like I would say I would be one if it was to like cut out like everything. I'd be able to do that easy with no issues. And you'll see this as well in like the bodybuilding world, is that they're so disciplined and they can stick to their calorie counting, they can stick to their macronutrients, stick to their sets, because they have that like underlying discipline and purpose of knowing what they're doing. But the majority of the general public are still not there. So that's when like having that flexibility to a certain degree and having the bases covered and fundamentals nailed gives you and opens up the possibility of like letting your hair down once in a while, enjoying yourself,
exactly.
which is a component of life, and that fun aspect and the social lubrication and freedom of expression and like liberation and partying and social connection. It's deep. It's ingrained in our DNA to a certain degree of like communities.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's
It's like, why would you want to never be able to have, you know, a night out or something like that? You know, I don't recommend people go out and drink alcohol all the time or this or that, but it's nice, like you said, to be able to have that flexibility and freedom. And if we're talking about the 80-20 of the light diet, it's like watch the sunrise, eat your food while the sun's out, especially more towards the morning, sunbathe, live outdoors, or I should say that's already included in sunbathing and live outdoors. Watch the sun set, block blue light after the sun goes down, and go to sleep early. I mean, that's half the steps.
Yeah.
But that's just the light component. But that's super duper easy and applicable to everyone. Of course, people ask, well, what do I do if I live in the Scandinavian, Nordic, Northern European countries? Maybe people have asked you this question, but
yeah,
it's pretty simple. Look at Ryan's Instagram. He's in frickin' the 53rd latitude in London, and he's still watching the sunrise and sunset practically every day,
still
even
topless,
when it's cloudy.
Yeah,
Topless, getting the sun. The cold acts as sort of like an adjunct or like a complement to light. When there's less light, you can cool your surfaces, your skin, and actually be able to assimilate more light.
So looking at the Inuits, like, why do they have a tan? It's because the alpha melanocyte stimulating hormones rise because of the cold therapy, the cold weather that they're exposed to. That's obviously not occurring now in modern society. They got used to like Western.
They became super obese super quickly.
Yeah. So like that's like whatever your environment is, you sort of need to like jump into it and like feel it, go with it. And like, yeah, it's not going to be where we are right now. And there takes some adjustment periods, but you really just need to like embody the environment where you are and go with the flow of things.
Yeah, and one way you can know you're successful is if you look, like, you can just see, like, when I look at people, I can see the difference pretty quickly in someone who's getting sun and healthy and someone who's not. Like, people, there's lots of people who are naturally fair-skinned. Ryan and I are both two of them. We're
Irish.
Light-skinned Irish and British people. And yet, when your cells are healthy, except for the rarest of skin types, which is like the super light, freckled, ginger, red-haired type of skin type, sometimes these people really will not pick up a tan at all. But I've seen people like that who still can get some sunlight and not even burn for many reasons, because they're doing the right lifestyle, they're using their mind and kind of programming it so that they know that they can get sun to a certain degree without burning. But ultimately, what I'm trying to say is you could see someone who's healthy and robust, and you'll know if you start getting some sunlight, you start going out in the cold, you'll be able to see, like, you start to become a bit more robust, a bit more rugged of a person. You start to look a little bit have a tan.
A glow. Well,
glow.
I say it as a glow. And
it's
again,
a glow,
like, there's
effectively.
and this question gets asked a lot, like, how much sun do you need? How much, like, downloading do you need in the morning? Like, there's so much context around it. And again, like, it has to fit into your lifestyle. Like, me saying you need 20 minutes when you got, like, a kid, you got to walk the dog, you got a job to hold down, and all these other factors. Like, that's not realistic. So we have to always be realistic in our lifestyle, essentially. But, like, you don't need to go crazy with such, like, solar exposure. Like, where we are right now, it's extremely intense heat. So I even need to be careful. Although I can pick up a tan fairly easy, I don't think more is always better. And again, based on, like, the genetic component, like, I don't need that much or high levels of vitamin D to a certain degree all year round. And I'm quite happy for my vitamin D levels to drop over the winter periods if I was in England, for example. But yeah, that's like slightly more detail to go. But like, let's move it. Obviously, we just touched upon, like, blue light blocking glasses or blocking blue light at night. So let's talk more about, like, blue light blocking glasses, like, what they do. Let's keep it really, really simple.
Absolutely. Well,
because I don't really discuss this much on like conversations on stories. There is an article on my website which is like a few thousand words talking about blue light blocking glasses and like a 101 basically all about them. But like in simplistic terms, let's just say what is blue light blocking glasses?
Yeah.
And then why do we need to block it?
Absolutely. So, people are really familiar, especially from following Ryan at this point, that our body has this thing called a circadian rhythm, or just a body clock, and that this body clock is so much more important than we often understand it to be, because it controls the timing of the key centers in our brain that control the timing of our organs, that control the timing of every cell, of metabolism, of everything. And so when this clock is working well, everything, it's like a big logistics company like UPS. All the receiving and shipping and everything needs to be on time. Otherwise, there's going to be things that don't get there in time for that next flight. It can become really complicated, long story short. When we're exposed to sunlight and not getting artificial light at night, we're good. And that was all of evolution. But now, today, we're getting very little sunlight in the morning, if any, for most people. The average American spends 92% of their time indoors. A very good government, study and statistics showed. And in addition to not getting sunlight, we're spending all of our day under artificial light, and we're getting a ton of artificial light at night. So what's essentially happening is the human organism, which is like a beautiful painting, robust with a wide variety of colors, when you take a painting that has a large variety of colors and shine it just under, for example, a blue or a purple or a green light, you can't see all the colors in that painting. You can only see those few colors that are shine on the painting and reflecting back. And in a similar fashion, the human body has been evolved under this full spectrum of sunlight, all the way from ultraviolet to infrared, with all these different colors that actually power our biology and power all sorts of different biochemical reactions and charging our cell water. So what happens is we start to actually lose our color, we start to lose our function as an organism when we don't get that full spectrum of light. Yeah, that stimulus and just the power of the full spectrum. And that's what happens when we're indoors under artificial lights. So the reason it's so important to wear blue light blocking glasses is because the main sensor for this light, controlling our hormones and controlling our brain function and controlling our metabolism, is through our eyes. So when we're indoors under those limited, not full spectrum fluorescent or LED lights, what they're doing is they're basically telling our brain that we need to make more of our stress hormones, which activates our adrenals and gets our body really cranking and not necessarily the best way, but there's none of the powerful red and near infrared light, which is basically acting as a complement to the blue light, which protects our body. So basically the way to summarize that, if that didn't really make sense to you, but I'm sure it did for most people, but is that basically sunlight's good, artificial light is really, really disruptive, and we need to be protecting from the blue component, because that's the component that's the most disruptive when it's isolated away from the sun. When it's in the sun, it's super beneficial. So during the day, it's important to be blocking that blue when you're inside anytime without the near infrared, because even windows block the near infrared light. And so even just behind window glass, it can be a huge issue. So that's why
it's like looking at a rainbow and just only seeing the blue light in the rainbow, which has never ever happened before. But that's what humans have done when they designed artificial light, is that they took the components of the rainbow and the components that you can't see and the human photoreceptor can't see, and they disregarded that. So now you're only getting that sole blue spectrum, and as we know, like, it requires this false rainbow to power the body. Essentially, for it to work efficiently and effectively, it requires the full spectrum. But remember, daylight outside during the day, that rainbow effect and the invisible rainbow, the UV, the infrared, there's different times of day when it's more highly active, or when the colors and the temperature and the power, the intensity is sort of different as well. So that's when, like, it's so important to get that right frequency in the morning, and the angle of the light as well, which Dr. Huberman talks a lot about, of in training, so downloading and training your circadian rhythm to function optimally. And it's the same thing in the evening, is that we want to remove the blue light, because in the evening there's no blue light. You'll see some sunset is like fairly red and near infrared, although the intensity is a little bit brighter, and then there's no blue light whatsoever. So that's where the blue light blocking glasses come in. And like, you don't need, and like I've always said this, you don't need blue light blocking glasses, but if you're living like a typical modern lifestyle and in a population density, then you're going to be exposed to artificial light in some way or shape or form, be it with like the fridge light if you're eating late at night, be it with the TV, be it with working light,
eating late at night.
Yeah, even like lampposts in towns,
car headlights.
Yeah, the lights that are coming through, if your curtains are not blocking out the light as well, whether your partner's watching like Netflix before bed, all these things are going to influence your photoreceptor melanopsin, which is the blue light photoreceptor, and going to be derailing your ability for your brain and your pineal gland to be like, boom, lights out, and therefore allow to the body to secrete melatonin in the pineal glands, but also instruct your peripheral tissues to release the intracellular melatonin as well. So this is what, like, the context, like, most people think that, at night you block the blue light and then your body produces melatonin. Like, that's not the case. You actually make the melatonin during the day based off aromatic amino acids and a few other cofactors involved there as well. And then when you get that signal at night, like lights out, bang, it comes alive. And that's when the healing process come in. That's when the hormonal cascade comes in. That's when oxygen tension in the cell sort of changes and gives that signal to certain antioxidants like glutathione, catalase, superoxide dismutase to become active, and the immune cells, stress hormones, growth factors, all these sort of metabolic pathways come alive. So if we're not blocking it, we're not getting that stimulus. Therefore there's like more risk in this, and you see this in the studies, associations of like cancer, neurodegenerative diseases.
I actually have a list of all the things melatonin does. Why not just pull it up? So Dr. Dispenza is a huge expert on melatonin because he uses it as part of his teachings to explain how our body is healed by melatonin and the things that it can do for us if we actually allow it to be released the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, so it's not just the sleep hormone, and that's what it's touted as. It's not that. It actually has like immuno capabilities of acting, being like, it's very adaptive in its immuno properties essentially, and it's protective of the mitochondria DNA. And the mitochondria DNA, there's 37 genes in the mitochondria DNA, but only 13 of them are actually responsive to the respiratory proteins in the mitochondria. And if they are getting like bombarded with free radicals, then there's no way that we're producing sufficient energy or utilization of food, for example, and making that water, making that light, and creating that electrical charge in the cell. So that's where like blue light blocking glasses come in to protect in a modern world, and it doesn't replace common sense around your light environment as
Absolutely.
a whole. So like your skin as well is going to be influenced by your light environment, and also like the top of your head, your scalp, your brain, when it's exposed to full spectrum light, is also downloading light. It's entering your skull, and we see that in red light therapy studies, photobiomodulation, is that it has a profound effect on like deep inside the cells of light, how light can, certain frequencies of light penetrates tissues at different depths, therefore responding to different like chromophores, so photo absorption proteins, for example.
So melatonin, just a quick list, and this is probably studies you maybe have heard of or haven't, but it actually stops cortisol level over secretion in response to stress. So it basically calms us down by lowering our stress hormone levels, which is very important. Improves our carbohydrate metabolism, so the way the body is able to utilize fuel, which is very important. Lowers our triglyceride levels, which is obviously super important. This is all related to the core function of our mitochondria, our metabolism, all those pathways in the cell. It inhibits atherosclerosis, hardening of the arteries. It has heightened our immune response, cellular and metabolic immunity. It's decreased the development of tumors, increases lifespan by 25%. According to certain studies, reduce our body weight, optimizing again the metabolism, activates neuroprotective role, protecting our brain, increasing REM sleep, which is the time that we're dreaming. It stimulates free radical scavenging, which is protecting the mitochondrial DNA and scavenging those free radicals, and promoting DNA repair and replication. And so these are just some of the many benefits of melatonin. So like Ryan's saying, I was focused on the daytime blue light blocking glasses when you're in an office all day, but the key, the mega huge benefit you can get is throwing these things on when the sun goes down. And I'm with Ryan. There's, you don't need blue light blocking glasses, but in the modern world, when we're living around all these different light sources that are disrupting our body's natural ability to function, it helps a lot to have something that can actually protect you from the damaging effects of that light, so that you can live your best life at the highest level. Because ultimately it goes back to the why. Like, I started the company because I personally experienced from a really young age constant struggle, and I went through all the dieting, all the struggles there that people go through trying to fix it, and this was like very challenging and even traumatizing in certain respects for me as like a teenager, just like yo-yo dieting and getting super stressed. To learn that there's so much more out there that we're literally just not told about and just isn't in the mainstream information right now was a huge shock. And I want people to know this stuff. Like, that's the passion that's been driving me this whole time, is like, people just need to know this stuff, It's whether you buy our products or not, it doesn't really matter, but it's important that people know that light is such a huge impact on our health. There's even a Swedish study that came out that I'm sure Ryan's read as well, that basically surveyed 20,000 women for a very long period of their life to try to analyze which factors are the most responsible for what they call all-cause mortality in the research world, which basically means death from any case, whether it's old age or a disease. And essentially, the number one factor that they found that influenced, of all the things they studied in these women's lifestyles, their stress levels, their relationships, their community, the foods they ate, the number one factor that affected their all-cause mortality was the number of hours of sunlight exposure that they were getting. And the researchers said that it's on the same magnitude. Avoiding sun exposure, therefore, is on the same magnitude as a health risk as smoking cigarettes. And people don't think that way. We think smoking cigarettes is one of the worst things ever, especially in the United States. That's sort of the culture. And yet people don't realize that being indoors all day is so detrimental and limiting from our body's maximal level of functioning and if we want to go even a level deeper, this controls our body's fundamental mechanisms where, say you smoke cigarettes, there are ways that our body heals itself. Like the oldest woman ever to live on record, 121 years old, is Jeanne Calment from France. She smoked cigarettes till she was like 90-something years old and drank her daily shot of alcohol till she was like, 112 or something like that. So there are ways our body can cope with these external stressors, but only if we're connected to nature, doing the downloading that allows our system to be strong and resilient. And there's community factor, and there's all these other factors.
She wasn't watching like Netflix on her laptop at night. She wasn't like on the iPhone.
She was playing card games with friends.
Yeah.
Under candles for most of her life, probably. So it's really amazing stuff. So that's kind of the core.
So like, okay, so like right now, like these are two of the glasses.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit more about like the
absolutely.
differences. So we got the yellow day, and then we got the orange night ones.
Yeah.
So these are your new model, actually.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. So let me just make a disclaimer that we would not want to wear these out in the sun. This is something where people make a mistake. Sure, I can look cool and I can have a really interesting experience of the world, but the key, and you could wear them for a minute if you want, but the key thing that Ryan and I talk about, it actually looks pretty cool. Try it on. But is we want the downloading of the full spectrum. As soon as you put these on, you're not getting that full spectrum in your eyes, which is therefore an issue. So we want to be using, these lenses are designed for day. So these block basically 98% of blue light in the blue light range. And so this is maximal blue light protection with a lens that optimizes our ability to perceive all the other colors, the greens, yellows, orange, and red. And you would use this if you're, say, working in an office all day, you're working on screens, you're doing things like that, to protect your body from that blue, which we likened to earlier. When you have the blue in the sun, it's totally cool. But when you have the blue without the near-infrared light, which happens when you're under artificial light sources or you're behind windows, it's kind of like having a virus and a healthy immune system. You got a virus and a healthy immune system, it's not that big of a deal. But if you have a virus, which would be like the blue light, without the healthy immune system, which would be like the near-infrared light, you got a problem, a really big problem. And so these, when you don't have the immune system, which is the near-infrared light, these act as your, basically, immune system. They block that blue light to lower it down so that it's not going to be so damaging. So that's when you would use these. Then these are the night lenses, so we call these day lenses and night lenses. Night lenses, you would want to slap on before the sun comes up or after the sun goes down to maximize your protection from all sources of artificial light, whether it's car headlights, street lights, lights at your friend's house. Like if you went online and you bought red light bulbs for your whole house, and or you only use candles at night, which is a great move and I recommend to everyone, then you're good at your own house, which is the dream. But if you watch TV and you want to watch TV and watch a movie, well then you're going to need to throw these on. Even if you have a filter software on your computer, it still doesn't block all the blue, so you'd want to throw on these night lenses. If you go out to a buddy's house, you're out in public, it's going to take at least 50 to 100 years probably for all of the world's lighting to really be up to speed. Maybe a little bit less, maybe 20, 25, but it's not going to happen overnight. So these make a very simple, low-hanging fruit product, and that's why I started the business, because what's the thing, besides getting something that people can do to optimize their health the most as far as their circadian rhythm goes? Like, okay, you can get the sunrise, cool, but you can't just snap your fingers and block all the blue light. So these became super useful. So that's when you use the night lenses. And just so people know, to make it easier for you, if you wanted to use these daytime lenses at night, you're still getting, like I said, about 98% of all the blue light blocked with these lenses. And so you could use these daytime lenses at night and be getting like a massive benefit. You could think of these like level 1 and level 2. So you want to slap these on and get the maximum protection.
So I see this as was it night mode on the iPhone?
Exactly.
And then these is like the gold standard essentially. Like that is sort of the way there, but like these at night time. But like, okay, so what? Obviously there's different products out there. Like you can go on Amazon and find some blue light blocking glasses, and they're like 15-20 pounds, for example. Like they might not look great, but they're cheap and they're fairly clear. So like, tell us the difference.
Let's get into it.
Why raw optics is slightly different, why they need to invest slightly a little bit more, also look amazing in the frames that you design as well, but like why do they need to maybe invest a little bit more on something that actually works? And yeah, just go there.
Yeah, so there's this huge issue happening right now today, and it's just an opportunity for the world to raise its consciousness a little bit more. But basically, the majority of blue light glasses that are marketed today through Amazon, through different websites, they're actually not blocking the ranges of blue light that are the most damaging. So they want to appeal to a mass audience, right? So they're selling clear lenses because people don't necessarily want to wear a colored lens until it's cool. We're making it cool. If you couldn't tell, we're pretty cool guys. But I'm just playing. But the colored lenses are not socially acceptable right now. You know, if you're like a business executive and you show up to a dinner with colored lenses on, it's just not socially normal. And people want to be socially normal. I don't. Ryan doesn't, but many people do.
We don't care.
And
We have
I
zero
think
for. We have
listening to
zero
this, you probably don't either. So this is a good thing. But you want the effect, right? You want the result. But so the people who don't want the result, they just want the gimmick. They want the perception of the result. And there is something to be said about placebo effects. I will say that. And there is a certain effect of the placebo, but only to a certain extent. So what happens with these clear lenses is they're blocking all of the light up to 420 nanometers. So blue light goes from 400 to 500 nanometers. They'll block 100% up to 420, and then they'll start blocking less and less. And by the time they get up to about 450 nanometers, which is where any LED, a white LED, which is what our phone, computers, iPads, and most lighting today is based off of cool white LEDs. That main blue light spike is at 455 nanometers. It's centered around 455. It really goes from about 440 all the way up to 460 approximately. But so if you're blocking 100% from 400 to 420, but you're blocking between 1 and 3% at 455, and yet that's where the big spike of blue light from these devices is, are you really getting the benefit? And not just the devices, but the lights. Are you really getting the benefit that you're paying for? You're not. You're not getting the benefit. Again, placebos have an effect. But if you're going to pay money for something and you want the biochemical effect based on the data, in addition to the placebo effect of believing that it works, then you really ought to invest in something that's going to block that range. So that's where we designed our lenses. The color and the pigments of the lenses it's a reflection of that light being blocked. So if you have a clear lens, what it's saying to you is that the light coming in the one side is coming out the same side, the other side, unchanged. That's what clear means. It's transparent. As soon as you filter out a certain wavelength of light or a certain portion of the spectrum of light, it's no longer transparent because all the light passing through isn't passing through quite the same. You remove the blue light. If you think about the wheel of colors, you remove the blue light, the colors that are left are green, yellow, orange, and red, and those combine to make yellow.
And you just need to see the opposite colors, like how artists use paint, and like what's the opposite of blue? It's yellow.
Exactly. So that's
green
what happens.
Is red, isn't it?
Exactly.
Or something like that.
Yes, it is. That's Christmas colors.
Yeah.
So basically, that's why it's so important. That's why our lenses have this color. So the reason the day lenses go from yellow and the night lenses go to a bit of a deeper orange red is because when you block more of that, you block all the blue light and then you block into the green light range, which is what our night lenses do to give you a bit of an extra kick for your melatonin production. But you're going to see that color get a little bit darker and a little bit more orange.
But this is like the context, and like Dr. Huberman doesn't really discuss this. Like there's nuance in the research because there's studies to show that, like, okay, cool, blue light blocking glasses don't work. Okay, but let's look into the methodology. What glasses did they use? And like again, it comes back to clear lenses. And essentially, it's like it's not just the blue; it's also the green, which also activates melanopsin as well. And the red glasses actually go up further than most other brands, and even like other brands that we won't even mention. But like yours go a bit beyond that, up to 550 nanometers.
Exactly. So our day lenses are blocking basically 100% up to 450, and then they're blocking about 95% up to 480. And so that's still a huge amount of blue light protection, but still giving you really great color perception. So if you want like the minimum effective dose, our day lenses are a really, really great place to start. But if you want the maximum effect, then I would buy day lenses for the time you're indoors during the day, and the night lenses for night. And you can use the day lenses at night, which I often do, if I'm in a setting where I want to have a little bit more color perception, or driving,
which is technically dangerous, and I wouldn't advise anyone to use blue light blocking glasses, red ones in that case, at night.
Yeah, because they're too dark. But the yellow lenses are actually commonly marketed even on all kinds of different companies. Again, these are the cheaper frames and the lower quality ones that are, basically just very cheaply manufactured. But they're still marketing these similar yellow lenses for reducing glare. So you can actually use these yellow lenses at night to reduce glare and actually make your driving experience a lot more pleasurable and a lot safer. So I appreciate what you said about the the lens technology. What we've done is we've actually, in addition to working with the experts in light and how light needs to be blocked, people like Wunsch and Kruse and all these others, just kind of learning from their expertise and doing our own research on the data, my own research into the data itself. We found an expert in the field of optics who actually designs lenses, and basically we've worked with this company to design the lenses the way that's the most effective to both block the light, but also give us the maximal color perception. So we have the pigment that we use in our lenses is actually based on melanin, which is the body's natural pigment for blocking light, and it's basically a synthetic version of melanin. So the way that the spectral curve works, and we're going to be we're building some cool graphics so people can see the spectral curves a little bit better, but the curve is very smooth because the way melanin absorbs light is very unique, and it allows our body to get, our brain and our body to get the maximal amount of protection, while in the case of our eyes and the case of the melanin being used in our lenses, the maximal the optimization of color perception, relatively speaking, when you're cutting out different colors. So it's a really interesting technology that we've used in our lenses to make this possible. And when it comes to the frames, like Ryan was saying, they're very stylish. I've just, we've gone ahead and picked the most stylish frames, like classic and kind of new hip and trending styles and looks that people are really into. Yeah. And the frames are made of the highest quality materials because, when I was buying these glasses in the first place, they were really cheap and they didn't feel very good. So what we did is we took the best frame material you can get, which is Italian acetate made in Italy, and we use that as the base for all of our frames. And it just, you can feel it. The quality's really good. Yeah. It's strong and durable and rigid.
Yeah,
and
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think when you first started doing your glasses, like 2.5 years ago, like the quality of them was like you said, fairly poor. And like you can tell, like these latest models are actually extremely well made.
Yeah.
Like the I don't know what you call that, but like it's extremely sturdy.
Yeah.
And like strong.
That's the temple.
The temple.
So that's really what we've done. And then the metal is also from Germany. So we use German metal just to have the best, because I just want to have the best product that's out there. And so that's what we've done to put it all together. And it's simple and you can use it in a lot of ways. And I would recommend, if you want to go purchase the glasses, obviously Ryan has a code that you can be using to get those and get a discount. And on top of that, what we can set up is somehow where Ryan can link people to the light diet. I've worked on like a full-length course, and he can send people that way to check that out and get the detailed steps of each piece.
Yeah.
And be able to optimize your life using that at some point. So we'll get all that set up.
So that's the thing. Like, I could just say, buy these glasses, they work, and like great melatonin. But like, you need to understand the why. And when you're building that why and you understand the processes, it's gonna be more. There's gonna be more attachment, and there's gonna be more like adherence to like wearing the glasses and being mindful around light and downloading and all these things, because you now know like the power of it, for example. But like what we talked about with the numbers, like 450, 480, 550, you can see a great graphic on my article, and you can see the different wavelengths of light and the color frequency, the color temperature, and how like sunlight is the full spectrum, LEDs, incandescents, and what's the other one?
Halogen.
Yeah, halogen. You can see their different like peaks, the lows, and it's just a great perspective of seeing how like the light environment has been changed by us being indoor and being light deficient. But at the same time, we are getting light, but the wrong time of day at night time. And that's like blue light blocking glasses, Raw Optics, which is like I'm proud to like be part of and rep them. So my discount code for them is, it's actually a URL. So I would put it on a story and swipe it up that you can get hold of, or you can just go to, or you can actually just enter Livevitae on the checkout as well. I think there's
you can
so there's a code as well, Livevitae, and there's a URL, rawoptics.com/Livevitae, and that gives you an automatic 10% discount. And like sign up to Matt's newsletter on there as well. And like he drops some great knowledge bombs. He's also got his own podcast, which we'll be recording later as well, hopefully.
Yes.
So that's everything like to do with like blue light blocking glasses.
Yep.
So like on the final question, like what are simple wins? Like you discussed it on the light diet thing, but like give us 3 simple wins which people can take home from like improving their health, basically.
Yeah. Well, I would say I just finished a week-long advanced retreat with this guy, Dr. Joe Dispenza, because I'm really focused, like I said, on how can I optimize my inner world and my inner experience to take the most advantage of everything in the outer world. And so I would recommend, people check out someone like Dr. Joe Dispenza if you're interested in this inner work, to really work through, because we all have these traumas, these past experiences that just often dictate, and we allow them to dictate and create our future. We let the emotions of the past basically create a predictable future, because we're always stuck living in those emotions of the past and seeing the present moment through the lens of our past experiences rather than through the vision of the future that we have the freedom to create. So I'd really recommend people look into that concept and check out Dr. Joe Dispenza on Instagram. That for me has been probably the biggest win of the last year, learning about that work. Secondly, I would say, if you can just get out, watch the sunrise, watch the sunset, and have some time sunbathing, whether it's in the late morning or, the morning, the afternoon, or even the middle of the day, dosing yourself accordingly. If the sun's a little bit weaker, like in the morning and the afternoon, you could get some more time, maybe 10, 20, 30 minutes, depending on your tan, or even longer if you have a great tan. But in the middle of the day, you might want to start with just 3 to 5 minutes if you're really pale, and build that up every day with the 2 to 3 extra minutes. So that's a huge win.
Yeah, it's just like training. Like, you don't go to the gym and squat 200 kilos straight away. You build up your loads, you build up your strength, and that's the same thing with the power of light, because like UV light can be fairly dangerous, like in context, and just overexposure like will create some damage. It will create burning as a protective mechanism to repair your body from the damage. So let's just go easy with like full exposure in the midday generally.
Yeah. And on the kind of following for the third win, and this is sort of in following from the first, but I would recommend something anyone can do today to sort of start that inner work and just kind of try it on for size. I'd say, like, think about yourself today. Try this exercise. Think about the person you are today, and then think about a person you want to be in the future, like who you see yourself at your best in the future. And then look back from your future self to yourself today and see, what are the limitations that I'm living by? What are the things that I'm afraid of? What are the things that are limiting me and holding me back? And just do that little thought experiment, and then start to try to step into, how would the future self of me handle any of these challenges I'm facing today? How would he or she walk? How would I think? How would I stand? How would I breathe? How would I interface with the people I love and pursue the opportunities of my dreams that maybe I've been letting slip for too long? How would that person view my whole life and view these things? And probably they would say, I'm going to start doing my dreams as soon as possible today and not wait. So that's sort of something I'm constantly doing an exercise of as well, because I've started this company, but I have dreams to go far beyond this with guys like Ryan over here. So
amazing.
Yeah,
thank you. So where can people find more about you?
Yes, so people should go to rawoptics.com, obviously, for the glasses, to learn about that, using Livevitae /Livevitae, Ryan's code. And then and subscribe to our newsletter, like Ryan said, to get information. We're sharing lots about blue light and lots about updates and unique discounts and content and information. But to learn about the light diet and what I'm focused on, go to just on Instagram, @the light diet. That's my page. And I'm starting to post like frequent field reports of just a day in the life and different subjects of content, basically like a little Instagram podcast, things that you could just get a taste of what I've been learning about or what I've experienced, and how that could maybe apply to your life, things you could take away from that. And we'll probably also be doing that as part of the Light Diet podcast. Audio and the video will be on Instagram. The audio will be on the podcast as well, just on a regular basis. So check out the Light Diet podcast, subscribe.
Great guests, Jacob Lieberman, and so if you follow my newsletter, that's like one of the books I recommend, Light as Medicine. A great guy to learn from, and like he's on Matt's podcast, as well as our mutual friend Dylan as well, who's sort of like on our wavelength with like quantum physics essentially, or quantum biophysics. Who else is on there? You got I
had Ben Greenfield, I had Dr. Laszlo Boros, I just had Kyle Kingsbury talking all about spirit and love and the way the world is kind of...
Paul Check on there as well?
Paul Check. Actually, I haven't done one with Paul yet, but I'll get Paul soon.
Yeah.
So it's been a really great. Luke Story,
and
obviously, soon to be Mr. Ryan Carter on that list of legends. So it's pretty cool. And I'm going to be, like I mentioned, releasing a Light Diet course, simple introductory course, for sale pretty soon. That's going to just be the simple guide, the thing you can do, get into it, and apply all these protocols to your life. So check out, again, subscribe to our newsletter and my Instagram to get updates about that. It'll be super easy. Do we have time to...
Yeah, so I'm going to... We haven't really been able to see the screen since doing this. So basically, I'm just going to go through some of the questions.
We've got bright light in our faces, everyone.
Okay, cool. So thank you again for everyone joining in. So I will save this. I've got my graphic designer to do an image to use as a cover, so hopefully she has done this whilst we sort of talked longer than I actually imagined, but it just flowed. So I'm going to just find some stuff. So people already said we have 3 pairs of raw optics in our house. Shout out to Quantum Health TV, a great channel to learn more about like quantum biophysics. So a great question here is, can these glasses customize eye grade? So prescription lenses.
Yeah, we can do prescription lenses. We can do readers and we can do distance prescriptions. So if you have readers or distance, we can't currently do progressives where the lenses have a transition, but we can do readers and prescription lenses.
Okay.
So if you have either of those, we can make that happen for you.
So again, you can still save money by using my discount code. Mm-hmm. How to purchase these? So yeah, again, like I said, go to my website. You can see an article there talking about raw optics, blue light blocking glasses. I have a store page with them as well, or just simply enter Livevitae at rawoptics.com or use rawoptics.com/Livevitae. Please save this, we will. Melatonin is a superstar. Holy smokes, it definitely is. Dropping such great usable knowledge. Thank you, Optimized Life Nutrition.
We love you.
Someone says, get that hot off, brother. I can't see the screen, that's why I'm wearing it. And again, I got a lot of sun yesterday, so I'm just protecting again. Informative lecture, thank you very much, Sammy. Panther Willis says they're from Houston, Texas. Hello there. Columbus, Ohio. Where are we? We are outside Tulum in Mexico, in a place called Acumal. I think I'm pronouncing that correct.
Yeah.
Happy Wednesday. You got that. Really, even Windows block, bummer.
Yeah, it is.
So essentially, this is the thing, is like, I think there was a study looking at truck drivers in the US, and they actually had, this is like it's not like so there was some study showing association of truck drivers and having skin cancer on the side of their body, which was exposed to the window.
Yeah, the direct light. So
yeah.
Even the light coming through the front, obviously, it isn't ideal. But when the sun is literally on your face coming through a window, Dr. Alexander Wunsch, who's a leading light researcher from Germany, and you could actually check out his website. It's actually on Vimeo. Vimeo, Dr. Alexander Wunsch on WUNSCH. I'm sure Ryan could recommend him to you, but anyone who's listening to this, just write this down right now. I promise you won't regret it. Look up the talk he did at University San Diego, Why the Sun is Necessary for Optimal Health, by Alexander Wunsch. Amazing, amazing lecture. But even he said that windows can turn the best natural light into complete crap light. And so he did a great podcast as well with a buddy of ours, of mine, Luke Story. And so you could check that out too. And that way you could get some more information about how light coming through windows is a huge issue. And Wunsch is a big researcher out of a university in Germany. He really knows what he's talking about. And he's someone who Ryan and I both look up to tremendously and will be hanging out with in Europe.
For sure. Hello from the UK. Someone said they bought the night ones. They're great. So I have eczema, food allergies, and I sunburn immediately. What do you advise? So for me, when I hear that, I see that your mitochondria are not making sufficient water in the cell, hence there could be some dehydration there. Therefore, that's the reaction occurring with the light and burning particularly easy. Food allergies, again, it's a very energy demanding organ, the digestive tract, and the immune system function there. I'd say some possible circadian misalignment and probably just some low grade inflammation there in the gut. So I would just be a bit cautious of like food you're eating, dialing in the circadian rhythm, and obviously just working with someone who knows what they're doing, and investing in your health. And again, like a disclaimer here is like anything that we do say is like shouldn't be treated as like medical advice, and obviously please consult your primary care physician on any of these recommendations, because like light is essentially a form of medicine, and this is a component of photobiomodulation, which is going to be like a form of medicine by a leading researcher called Tina Caruso. And she's done some amazing studies about photobiomodulation and just general health. It's phenomenal. So is the sunlight beneficial even when there is no vitamin D at the time of day? So yes. 100%. Yes. I actually done a post of this yesterday.
Great question, whoever said that.
Yeah,
shout out to, what's your name?
Ari Pura, I think I'm pronouncing that right. So yeah, I've actually done a post about this yesterday. So when we think of UVA, it's like the precursor to UVB, and that's getting the cells primed with UVA in helping build nitric oxide in the peripheral, which is changing oxygen, vasodilation, and basically allowing you to bury more light to a certain degree. And like that's the full rainbow effect of utilizing red light and infrared and protective mechanism of building your solar callus essentially. So yes, it's definitely all time. Yeah, all time of the day. There's ideally in the morning, that's when you want to set the circadian rhythm. But throughout the day, you just want to expose a low dose, go in and out, like however you want to do it.
And it's like my painting analogy. There's still the majority of the colors in that sun, just less UVB and less overall intensity.
For
you
sure.
Still want all the colors to power all the cells and all the functions.
Yeah.
And you don't need that much, by the way. You know, it's good to get more and more, and you'll feel your body, but you don't need to go out and go crazy. Just start getting doses, and you'll notice the difference. 5, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Even 1 minute, you'll feel a difference.
So would you recommend red light therapy for people in countries lacking natural sunlight? I think yes. I think it's a great tool. I again think it's actually a powerful form of medicine, and I had a discrepancy with one of these red light therapy companies, and sort of overriding of what I give recommendations to my clients, and I was a bit pissed off with it. And I think you need to be careful with red light therapy because you can overdo it.
I wouldn't use it at night because even bright red light can affect our melatonin.
For sure.
So wouldn't use it at night. And personally, the best red light therapy is fire. If you can have a fireplace, a bonfire,
beeswax candles,
even candlelight. But candlelight isn't much intensity; it's more just for vision.
But fire,
like actually having a fire and sitting in front of a fire, humans tribally would do, you feel amazing. At a fire, all that infrared. So
and that's actually making melatonin, and that's making melatonin there. So the convenient lifestyle is killing us 100%. Love the rules you shared. So it's not rules; they're just components. Like we don't live in that rule mindset. We live in it's just like factors or components.
Pillars or steps. I call them just the steps of the light diet. You don't have to take all the steps, but the more steps you take towards your dreams.
Hi from Peru, Tyler B. Slade. You can take those in many directions depending on the client and their desires. It's a nice easy way to set up a conversation around change. Conversation around change, Someone likes the name of the light diet. Straight to the point.
Thanks,
love that.
Guys, I appreciate it.
Can we save this? Yes, we can. Tell us more where you went to Bosnia.
I lived in Banja Luka, which is in the north of Bosnia, in the Republika Srpska, and it was just a really cool experience. It was a government-sponsored exchange program through the U.S. to improve relationships with countries with significant Muslim populations. So I just went all in with it and had an amazing time, and the people were beautiful, and the food was amazing, and there was so much love and community, and I thought, wow, there's something to this different lifestyle that's more connected to nature and people and society, whereas the United States is much more individualist and separated, and that has a huge impact on our health too. And I hope we made that clear. It isn't all just about your light environment. Community, love, meditation, spirit is really critical for our health too. And Ryan and I both practice what we preach there.
For sure. So my friend Dr. Ed from the UK, bringing information and great people together for healing equals entanglement. Love it. Book recommendation from Quantum Health TV, read The Invisible Rainbow. I haven't read that yet. I read whose book did I? Martin Planck's book, I think it's Planck, about EMFs, and that was really good as well. Ryan, do you work as a functional medicine practitioner? So the term functional medicine is often thrown about. I understand functional medicine principles, and they are aligned in part of a component that I use with clients. So technically no, but I utilize some of their components.
Functional medicine 10.0.
Yeah, so it's just I'm not part of any paradigms. I formulate, I think I said at the beginning, it's there's pieces of the jigsaw, and I basically put all those pieces together and connect the dots. And essentially that's how I work. And I don't use protocols, I don't use frameworks. I just basically connect the dots to different sort of mentors and different educations, and utilize the best and apply that to my clients essentially. Can we get you both on Quantum Health TV? Yes, we'd love that. Obviously you can just hit Matt up for that. Please bring some sun back to the UK. I think there's some sun there already. Hello. So I think we're gonna leave it now because I think this is supposed to be 20 minutes.
Yeah, but it's probably been an hour.
Yeah. So we will stop this, we will save it, and hopefully it will be uploaded. No problem, we've got Wi-Fi where we are luckily right now. So thank you again.
Thank you, everybody. Great to meet you.
And again, you can find all those links on my website. Save some money whilst investing in your health as well. I am affiliate of Raw Optics. But again, when you're buying them, you're also supporting me. You're helping me produce more content